Come on with me. Come on with me, Bucky Bush. Bucky Bush. Made it public. He gets like $1 trillion. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
The Pear Deck, joinpd.com, EasyXVK.
Oh, I'm so tired.
EasyXVK.
When are we getting our report cards?
They will process all that after school's out. So I would say the first week of June, but I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mr. P,
Yes, sir.
how will the pass-fail change our grades?
It will pass or fail, but your average for the year will be based on the 3-9 weeks of actual scores.
Okay, so the pass-fail will not average into.
I don't think so. I don't think it would, but I don't know. I can't guarantee that. But as long as you have everything turned in and done your best ability to do it, it's a pass. So
Got it.
it's basically as long as you do what you're supposed to. You don't get there's no grade given numerically. It's just yes or no.
So it's pretty much effort grade?
Basically, yep.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. But you do have a fourth 9 weeks. It's just a P or an F.
Yeah.
Because they wanted it to be that you were accountable for doing, but not that you would be penalized if you missed stuff, like got things wrong. Since you're not in real school, and actually in the building.
Yeah, because that can interrupt learning and alter grades.
Yes. So again, as long as you have made your best efforts, then it's pass. Which is why I reached out to some people yesterday to remind them that had several assignments missing, so they would have a best effort and show that they were trying to do their work. That was the point of reminding people yesterday. So I had to text some parents to say, hey, so-and-so needs to finish up. And again, these last 2 math lessons, today and tomorrow, we'll have everything covered because we just have finish line graphs and then do box and whisker plots and histograms, and we're finished. And today's Ed puzzle was the last Ed puzzle, so just make sure they're all finished.
Mr. P, I just got my password reset, so I'm going to get all the clever stuff that was not done.
Right. And the thing is, you're making an effort, so that's fine.
Yeah, because I couldn't get into it, and I kept emailing them like every single day, and they're like not loading. But I'm going to get the brain pops done, I think, is what I have all backed up.
So, Mason, you are good because you've been here every day. You've been doing your work the whole way through, so you don't have anything to worry about because you're trying. That's all.
Well, I still want to do them because I like brain pop, actually.
Sure, and that's the best way to learn the science.
Mr. P, what about me?
What about you? You've been here every day. You're all caught up. You've been impressive, Kimani. I appreciate it. Definitely. And the thing is, you all have the best class average of participation, I think, of any classes in the school. Because other teachers I hear from, they don't have near the participation because everybody's done most things. Just a couple people are behind, but they're catching up this week. So they'll be good.
Are they doing like daily Zooms or like weekly Zooms?
So everybody has daily assignments, but they're doing weekly Zooms.
Okay.
So they're just having to learn this stuff with online. And honestly, they probably didn't get everything covered. So, but we have, because I look at it like it's our responsibility to finish it all, right? Okay, let's see. I think anybody trying to get in is there. So again, it's joinpd.com, easy XVK. And I know it was super hard yesterday to see the slides because the Pear Deck wouldn't open. So I don't know what the deal was with that, but it opened fine today. So I'll give you about 15 seconds to be in the Pear Deck, easy XVK. And if you'll please make sure you've got your mute button so that you can unmute when I ask you a question. Because I think some people yesterday couldn't hear that I was asking them a question. So just be sure that you can hear me and that if I call on you, you're able to answer. And it doesn't matter if it's not right. Just give it your best guess, best shot. And these things, here's why these graphs are important, because next year you'll be taking honors math, and a lot of what you'll be doing will be getting you ready for integrated math 1, which is basically algebra 1 for 8th grade. Most of you'll take it in 8th grade. A few of you may take it in 7th grade. But these are things that will lead you into that. So when you start 7th grade, you won't have a gap and being like, what? Because so much of what you're doing in algebra, you think, oh, algebra is just solving for an unknown letter like X, Y, whatever. There's way more to it than that. It's about analyzing graphs and data. So there's a lot of that involved in it too. So like slope, you'll learn about, and you've already gotten a foundation of starting to talk about it. So if you ask 6th graders, what's negative slope and positive slope? They're like, I don't know. At least you have an idea. So when you get it introduced next year, you'll be like, oh yeah, we started that last year. So that's the point, to do that. I wish somebody would have done that for me because it was hard, not starting, with the basics and building onto it. Just think of it now. This is my last thing to say about that. Think like if in 4th grade, all of a sudden they just started you doing fractions and you had to know all your times tables. Just start right then. Think how hard that would have been, because all through kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, you were learning the basics to those things, like learning your 2s and 3s and 4s, learning basic little simple fractions and adding them, subtracting them, probably whatever. So then when you started it in full force, you had a foundation. So that's the point of all the grades, starting stuff, and then you build on it because you need a foundation. And most things you learn, it takes 2 or 3 years of starting it and then building on, and then another year. You can't just learn it all at one time because it's overload. So that's the reason you start things like this. Like we started ratios this year. You'll do ratios a lot next year, but they'll be much more complex and there'll be a lot more arithmetic involved in them, where you have to do a lot of cross multiplication to get the proportions. Whereas we did lots of models this year, you'll start just doing just algorithms with them a lot. So building the foundation, and again, think of it like with fractions. You started with models when you were little, doing stuff with it, and then you could do the computations when you got older. So that's the point of a lot of what 6th grade has been about with ratios and with the algebra stuff. All right, I'm gonna start here. It's 10 after. So we're gonna talk about histograms. We're gonna quick review one more time about other graphs. I've got a couple of questions that are different questions. And last time, to tell me something on here, tell me something about being quarantined all these 10 weeks that has filled your bucket, not just necessarily today, but over this whole time. Like for me, it would be getting to be at home, but draining would be being at home, because when you're trapped there, you want to be able to go places. So whatever is something that's filled your bucket over the whole entire 4th 9 weeks, being at home, learning online, versus what's drained it. And also a quick reminder, in case I don't remember to say it. So tomorrow, 11 o'clock lesson, 12 o'clock tomorrow, not 11:30, but like 12 o'clock. So about 20 minutes after we're done here will be the 6th grade gym kit for everybody in all 4 subjects. And then Thursday will be the Mr. P Awards on Zoom, but at 10 o'clock. And then from 1 to 5 is when you can drive to the Graymar School and get your bag of stuff. And basically, they just had us put everything in the bag. So if you get it and you're like, I want to donate that later, or I want to throw it away, whatever. But I would encourage you to keep your notes, especially your history notes and your math notes, because a lot of those will be things we'll get built on in 7th grade. So just saying. All right, so really quickly, look at a couple things, getting to learn new things. Yeah, but not being able to play outside with your friends. I get it, definitely. Like all the 6th grade teachers, we had to go in shifts yesterday and wear all the masks and stuff at Graymar. And just literally seeing people in person was so nice, because we would say, oh, I saw you online, but seeing you in person is different. Of course, we couldn't get near each other, but that's been a frustration. Yeah, spending time with family, but being stuck at home, for sure. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. But yeah, I feel you on the isolation part. Everybody's saying basically the same thing, not getting to go places, but the time with your family. So making a good situation out of something that's bad. Okay, this person, that is my #1 drain when it's not been where I can be outside, because we have a big backyard with, you know, a lot of privacy, so we can be outside and not get in anybody's space. But when it rains and you're stuck in the house, just not fun. So yeah, a lot of the same things here. Yeah, I agree with that. Summer vacation, it's here now. 2 more days. Yep, I'm sure, Fred. I'm just going to tell you, I know that. You're not the only one on that. But you understand it's for learning, right? So remember, keep muted, but be able to focus and answer a question. If I ask you one, please, that would be much appreciated. Okay, so you should have some dots on your screen. So if you'll take a moment to look at that graph, and I'm not going to say what those things are. I'm going to see if you can remember. Getting that graph of information, would you please tell me, with those 5 statistical question answers there, those 5 statistical answers to that question, where would the dot go on the median? So you're going to put your dots over here on the numbers. Where would be the median of the numbers? Where would be the mean of the numbers? So the red dot for the median, the blue star on the mean. And let's see if you can figure that out. So Mabel, the collie, is chasing Megs around, and then she comes and gets under my chair so that Mabel can't get her. It's like they're playing tag. I mean, they're just playing. It's like, don't come over here when I'm trying to teach. All right, so we're gonna show the screen. Now, the funny thing is, most of those shapes should all go about in the same place, right? So I'm going to remind you with an annotation, a line here, to say that if I want the median, I'm looking for a number that would about evenly divide, move all of those around. So in other words, I would want to move this, part of this down here, move part of it over here. So my line would actually be a little higher. It'd be more like right here. Something about like 7. So literally it'd be like, take the rabbit number, the dog number, the cat number, the goldfish number, the hamster number, right? Add them up, divide by 5, and that number would be your mean. That'd be the blue star, so about 7. And most of you got it on the 7. So with the median, did you get the median as a higher or lower number than that? Did you get it a little lower? And the answer is yes. So I would put the numbers in order. So I put hamster, rabbit, goldfish, dog, cat. Then I would go in between dog and goldfish, which is 8 and 6. And so in between that, so it's about the same. It may actually be 7 as well. if you added them all up. Did anybody actually add them up and get the actual number for the median? It's the middle of the data. Anybody that actually added them?
That's what I'm doing right.
So it'd be, not, the numbers are covered up now, but you'd add them up, go to for the mean, you add them up, divide by 5. But for the median, you just put them in order, smallest to largest, and go to the middle thing. And let's see, the middle one is the goldfish, right? Isn't it the middle number?
Yes.
Yeah. So the
The
goldfish,
mean is 6.8.
right? The mean is 6.8, and the goldfish is actually the median number, right? The middle number on there. So yeah. All right. So let me go to the next slide here. Okay. So now we've got another drag and drop. So on here, will you put the red dot on the age that has the most people voting, and the green on the age that had the least amount of people voting, or kids voting? By the way, on the previous slide, the reason the median was slightly less is because you had that taller answer, which brought the mean up a little bit, right? Because remember, mean is best when there's not an outlier, although that wasn't an outlier, and median is best if there is an outlier, although there wasn't an outlier. It's not far enough off to be an outlier. There's no outlier here either, although you could say Mighty Man for 3-year-olds is most votes, but it's only 2 ahead of another one, right? 1 ahead of another one. So it's not an outlier. All right, let's see what people are saying. Okay, so let me call in somebody. Courtney, do you mind to tell me why the red thumbs up is on 3-year-olds? You don't have to tell me the answer, just tell me why would the red be on the 3-year-olds or 2-year-olds?
It would be on the 2-year-olds because it's the age with the most participants.
Right, because you add 12 plus 13 plus 3 plus 2, and that number is the highest number when you add all the lines up, right? So yeah, the red thumb should all be on the 2-year-olds. What is the number with the smallest number of votes? So even though the 3-year-olds has the largest single graph, it's not the largest number because there are 2 large numbers in the 2-year-olds. Okay, so most of you are saying the 5-year-olds. Angelo, do you mind telling me why you think 5-year-olds have the least number?
Because their numbers are smaller. Well, the bars are smaller.
Right, because literally the bars are the shortest, right? So would it be possible for an age group to have the longest single bar but still have the smallest number of votes? The answer is yeah, because say the 5-year-olds all voted for Mighty Man, that would be higher than the Mighty Man on age 3, but then say they only had 2 or 3 votes for the other 3. That would make them the lowest number of votes. They could have the highest single bar. So that's correct. So the point I was trying to make is that you have to really look at lots of things when you look at a graph. And I think I said this once before. You can write your answer on here in just a second. This one's a right or draw. So when you look at graphs, there's 2 things to know. Lots of graphs have many hidden pieces of information you have to look at to get out. Some are obvious, some are not as obvious. And also, every graph can be used to try to mislead somebody. You see it on commercials all the time. It's called propaganda, right? Where you're trying to make something sound better than it is. And they use graphs a lot of times for that very thing. Okay, on here, will you, go ahead.
Though, Mr. P, well, I actually added like every single participant in each age.
Yep.
Well, they were all 30.
They were all 30?
Yes.
Okay, so then was, so then would you say that would make that a tricky slide? If they all actually had 30 people? Yeah, because it doesn't look that way. So if they are all 30, then neither one of those would go to any place. But that's my point. Sometimes data can be misleading because of the fact it looks like 2 has the most, whereas 5 has the least. So let's just verify that. Okay, 5, we have 5 plus 16, which is 21, plus 9, that's 30. And let's look at age 2, which we said was the most. 12, 13 is 25. That's also 30. So you're exactly right, Betty. You caught it. That they actually have the same number, but it looks like the way the bars are that 2 has more and 5 has less. So it can be misleading. All right. So that was a trick question and you caught it. So on here, will you pick one category and tell me if 200 people were surveyed? So on your screen, just pick your category and tell me how many people voted for that thing based on the graph if 200 people were surveyed. Just pick one and write it on there. By the way, great job, Betty, that you saw that. So is this an easy math problem? The answer is yes. Let's see here. Melis, do you mind to tell me what makes this problem an easy problem to do? What do you think makes it easy?
My iPad just glitched. What'd you say?
I said, okay. What about the numbers on this make it an easy problem to get?
Oh, well, since it's 200, the thing in here, I'm gonna guess, is probably, it's 100 altogether, so you just have to multiply it times 2.
Exactly. So could someone verify, she said it's probably 100 in the chart. What does she mean probably 100 in the chart? Madeline, what do you think she means by that? She's referring to these percents over here in the actual graph. She said that's probably 100. Is that right? Would all those numbers equal one? Yes, all those numbers added together would equal 100 because that's what a percent is. It's out of 100. So she was right. Easy, just go times 2. So if it's cosmic brownies, you say 2 times 2 is 4. So let's just quickly see what some people picked. All right, 6 for strawberry because it's 3 times 2. Yep. 10 for the crunch because it's 5%. 10 people voted for Star Crunch because it's 5%. So yeah. So look at, nobody's got the same one yet. Everybody's picked a different one. So yeah. So you're right. That makes that easy. It would be harder if that number was like, say, 127, right? Okay. So on here, you should have 2 dots. Will you put the 2 dots where on the slope? This is the tea kettle boiling, which is on the Nearpod lesson today. This is the point at which you turn off the eye on the stove. It starts cooling. It gets poured, sits back on the stove, and or wherever sits down, and it just continues to cool. Put the 2 dots where the slopes are about the same rate of cooling. They're negative slopes, but they're similar in the amount of cooling that's happening. And then put the square or whatever the other thing is on the part where it's the steepest, where it cooled the most rapidly. All right, so first thing we'd want to look at here is that so if I were to, it's covered up now. So if I were to look right through here where it was sitting, it's about the same slope as when it first was turned off right here. So the dots would go there, and they all are. And then right here, it was cooling at a steeper rate, because the obvious thought would be that that's where they poured some of it out, and that made it cool down because there was less volume in it. I don't remember if we ever said that or not, because it would have less volume. So that would make it cool a little faster, and then it would level out again, though, because that it would catch up to that change. All right, so yeah, so that's good. On here, if you will draw a green on the green and a red on the red, if what you predict the trend, based on the trend, where the graph would go if we were saying, okay, this was a 2018 on into the next year, or 2000, both those years, there's a new year afterwards, where do you think the line would go based on? And not looking back at January, just pretend like you don't know what the next year is, but where would it go based on that, do you think? Like, do you think it would go, let me put this back on. Would it be like this? Would it be like that? Would it be that? Would it be that? What do you think? Now, we don't know. It's a prediction, right? No way that we would know. Izzy, did you get in? I think she's having trouble getting in. You there, Izzy? It says your microphone's on. All right, so let's look at what a couple people said. Here, this person said, let me take mine off, said going down, because they're both headed down. All right. This person drew on there and showed the green would go up. So based on the trend, you would want to say they're both going to head down at about the same rate. Which one's going down more rapidly at the end of the year? The red or the green? The green? Who would say the red's going down more rapidly? Because I think the red looks a little steeper to me. So if I were looking at the red, and if the trend continued as it is, that's the key word there. If it based on the trend. So look at the steepness. You see how that's steeper than this, right? So yeah, so the red, at the end of the year in December, the red, which is the 2018, was going down more rapidly than was the green on that one. All right. On the wildlife population, I don't remember what the question was on there. Let me look. I can't see it. Will you tell me on here where you think the whale population would go in 2023 based on the graph? Just the whale population. Okay, Nathaniel, I want you to show yours, because will you talk about what you have there really quickly, so we're going to move on. Why did you do that?
Because I saw it was like going a little bit down, but it goes back up like a little bit, but it's kind of trending downwards.
So it's trending downward, but it's trending downward at a less rate than the one that's trending upward is. But the dolphin one is trending downward, but slower, right? But now we don't know, because it could increase or it could dramatically decrease. But based on the trend, that's what you could predict. And it's just a prediction because you don't know until the data has occurred. All right, so next thing, this is a histogram. If you've watched your Ed Puzzle, you know a little bit about a histogram really quickly. On number 1, will you write down what is the category that has the largest number in it? Number 1, if you'll write down on number 1, what is the category that has the largest? So I'm seeing people saying 0 to 9. That is correct. Could you, Josephine, tell me why the 0 to 9 category or interval or bin, they're called bins, why is that bin the most? It's the least number, but why is it the most?
It's the most because it has it's talking about how many people are there who are in the ages 0 to 9.
Correct. So it has the most numbers. So look up here at the top. The white circles go in the bin. The 1, the 3, these are age groups. The 5, the 9, the 6, the 4. Number 2, don't write it, just listen because we're not going to have time to write it. So with histograms, the first thing you have to do is you have to get all your data and you have to decide what are the intervals or the buckets or the bins that I want to create. So all of the bins or intervals have to have the same number of pieces of data possible. So you can do 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39 on this one. Why would this be wrong? 0 to 9, 10 to 9, 10 to 20, 21 to 30, 31 to 40. What was wrong with what I did? I messed
You
up.
had some buckets of uneven size, and one actually reused the same number.
Yes. So I actually had the same number in 2 bins, and I actually had 11 choices in one of the bins when the others had 10 choices. Now, do they have to have exactly 10? They can have whatever number you want, but they all have to have the same. Like if you're doing it by 6s, then all of them have to have 6 possible votes that can go in that bin. So think of like if I had buckets sitting on a table and I had everybody who's going to vote certain things, put them in those buckets, but one of the buckets had more choices to put in it, then it would get fuller faster. And that wouldn't be a fair representation of the data. So you have to make sure that the buckets or the bins, they're really officially called intervals. They all have the equal amount of choices to go in them. And then you compare which one has the most in that range. So that's the key to a histogram. The other thing that's a big mistake people make about a histogram is they don't let them touch. On a bar graph, they cannot touch. On a histogram, they have to touch. The reason they have to touch is because the touching together is showing you that all the different number choices have been included. Like I said, if we were doing a category for A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's, that wouldn't be a true histogram because the F's have from 0 to 69. So 70 choices, right? D's have 70 to 74. That's 5 choices. C's have like 11 choices. A's have like 8 choices. So you have to, if you're doing grades, you'd have to do something like 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, etc. What would be the problem if I did that though? When I get to 90 to 99, then I would need to figure out how would I deal with 100, right? Because I couldn't say 90 to 100 because I would have one extra choice in there, right? So you got to remember that when you're doing a histogram. All right, on this slide, will you tell me on here which category has something unique about it? So these are age groups. These are age groups for some particular whatever. So on your slide, if you will show me which bin or interval has something unique about it? And for time, I'm going to show a couple. This person drew a line right here, and that is correct. And this person wrote that down. So it would actually, what would the interval be? Would it be 80 to 90 or would it be 81 to 90? So it would either be 81 to 90 or 80 to 89, right? Even though they didn't specify, it would have to be one or the other. Why could it not be 80 to 90? Because then you would have an overlap on every one of them, right? Does that make sense? If I said 20 to 30, 30 to 40, the 20 gets in two places. So which one do I put it in? So you can't have a multiple place. You only exactly have one. So it could be that it's 81 to 90, or it could be 80 to 90, 89. Just it's got to be consistent across the board. Okay. So one more. We've got about 30 seconds. Okay. Will you tell me, what's happening at 110 to 119? That more should say 120 instead of more. That would be wrong to say that like that. What about that 110 to 119 category? So are there votes there? Is it 0? What do you say?
It's really low.
So it's not 0, is it? It's like 1. It's 1 or 2. So that one, even though very low, it does have votes in it. And the other thing I was going to have you do, but if we get cut off, I'll see you back on the GIM kit. The more should really say 120, not more. If it's more, they need to make those intervals. You can't just have at the end, you can't have a bin that just says everything else. That's not truly correct. You have to have all the categories